982.
982 divided by
7.
140.285,
This is not a movie, it is not CGI, and it is not some fake internet trick.
Unbelievable. You think, Gary, that's unbelievable.
These are real people caught on camera doing things that seem completely impossible.
How is that? Very, very good.
A man survives lightning strikes again and again. Another allows a sword to pass through his body without bleeding. Blind people learn to navigate without eyes. Humans survive freezing temperatures, walk across burning coals, control their heartbeat, endure extreme pain, and push their bodies far beyond normal limits. Scientists tested some of them. Doctors witnessed others. The footage is real, the records exist, and some explanations are still difficult to believe. Watch until the end, because the final cases may completely change how you see human potential forever. Number 36. Wim Hof. Watch the footage of the man they call the Iceman pushing his body somewhere it should not survive. Wim has been filmed spending hours submerged in ice baths, scaling snow-covered peaks in almost nothing, and finishing marathons run through freezing conditions. Scientists studying him have confirmed he can consciously override his own physiology, adjusting his heart rate, circulation, and immune response on command. One researcher put it plainly: "The Wim Hof method is now one of the primary interests of my lab because it is so powerful. And it's been shown to be powerful in the immune system. And we believe it will also hold some real potential for treatment of neurologic diseases." Testing shows he can raise his own adrenaline, control inflammation, and hold off the hypothermia that would drop most people in minutes. Every one of these feats has been filmed under controlled conditions with doctors standing right there, watching it happen. Number 35. Nenah Koolagina. Rare footage captures this Russian woman doing something that should not be possible, moving objects without ever touching them. Cameras from the 1960s show Nenah sliding pens, matches, and other light objects across a table while Soviet scientists watched every second of it. These researchers went out of their way to observe her under strict conditions, checking for hidden wires, magnets, or any other sleight of hand. Even after repeated rigorous testing, several of her demonstrations still had no conventional explanation. The footage of her sessions was preserved and still sits today inside scientific archives dedicated to studying psychokinesis. Number 34. Isao Machi. This Japanese swordsman has built a reputation on reflexes that outpace what a normal human eye can even follow. Filmed slicing bullets shot from an actual gun and cutting objects clean while they are still flying through the air. To confirm what viewers were seeing was real, his attempts were tested under strict conditions, including high-speed cameras built specifically to verify his timing down to the fraction of a second. Martial arts federations and news outlets alike have documented his speed, precision, and control, all pointing to the same conclusion, that his reflexes sit well outside normal human range. Number 33. Kim Peek. Video of Kim reading in a library shows something the human eye should not be able to do. His left eye tracks one page, while his right eye reads the other, both at once. Kim was the real inspiration behind the movie Rainman, though his actual abilities went far beyond what the film could show. He memorized over 12,000 books across his lifetime, and researchers confirmed it took him just 8 seconds to read and remember a single page. Ask him any date in history, and he could tell you the day of the week within seconds. Despite this, Kim could not button his own shirt or walk properly until age 4, and his IQ tested at only 87. Doctors call his condition savant syndrome, a rare trait where one part of the brain gains extraordinary power while others struggle. Number 32. Lucky Diamond Rich. See the transformation for yourself, because photos alone do not do it justice. Born Greg McLaren in New Zealand, Lucky holds the Guinness World Record for the most tattooed living person on the planet, with 100% of his skin covered, twice over. He did not stop at arms and legs. He injected ink into his eyelids and gums, the thin skin between his toes, and even down into his ears. In total, he spent over 1,000 hours in the chair, worked on by hundreds of different artists across multiple countries. Beyond the ink, Lucky swallows swords, juggles chainsaws, and rides a 10-foot unicycle, all while carrying skin that has technically run out of room. Number 31. Daniel Browning Smith. His demonstrations look like something out of a horror movie, except none of it is a trick. Known as the Rubber Boy, Daniel holds 7 Guinness World Records built entirely around a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which loosens the collagen that normally holds joints in place. He can dislocate both arms, both legs, and turn his torso 180 degrees, then fold his entire body into a box barely large enough for a suitcase. Stunt directors hire him to double for actors in scenes CGI still cannot fake convincingly. During one motion capture shoot for a video game, his range of movement was so extreme it actually crashed the software recording him. Doctors say the same condition that gives him this ability also causes him constant pain most people never see on camera. Number 30. Mirin Dajo. The surviving footage shows exactly what witnesses described, and it is hard to watch without flinching. In 1947, Swiss surgeons watched a man walk calmly across a hospital corridor with a rapier sticking clean through his torso, entry wound in his back, tip poking through his chest. No wincing at all. Doctors at Zurich Cantonal Hospital watched an assistant pierce him through the heart, lung, and kidneys, with no bleeding and no apparent pain. They x-rayed him with the blade still inside to confirm it was real, and the film showed the sword had passed straight through several vital organs. He credited yogic training and total faith for the ability. Sadly, Mirin died in 1948 after swallowing a metal splinter, proof that even the impossible has its limits. Number 29. Randy Gardner. Archival footage shows a 17-year-old still standing and talking well past the point where doctors expected his brain to shut down. For a high school science project in 1963, Randy decided to break the world record for staying awake, and Stanford sleep researcher William Dement flew in to monitor him personally. Gardner stayed awake for 264 hours, 11 full days, setting a new world record at the time. By day 3, he was slurring his words. By day 5, he began hallucinating that he was a famous football player. Yet on day 10, still without sleep, he beat Dement at a game of pinball. Guinness no longer accepts sleep deprivation record attempts because of the serious health risks involved. Number 28. The Fire-Walking Monks. This footage of monks crossing burning coals barefoot looks staged until you realize documentary crews have filmed it for decades. These monks belong to ascetic traditions that include meditating in waterfalls and hanging from cliffs by their ankles, building the mental discipline needed to walk directly across embers glowing at over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Part of the explanation is physics, since a typical firewalk covers about 10 to 15 feet of coals, and walkers cross in a few seconds at a steady pace, and coal is a surprisingly poor conductor of heat. But physics alone does not explain the calm, deliberate pace these monks keep, or how thermal scans show their skin barely rises in temperature. Journalists and tourists have documented the ritual for generations, with no trick ever exposed. Number 27. Roy Sullivan. His story sounds invented until you check the Guinness World Records archive and confirm every strike really happened. Roy worked as a park ranger in Virginia's Shenandoah National Park, one of the most lightning-active regions in the eastern United States, and between 1942 and 1977, he was struck 7 separate times and survived every one, each strike carrying several million volts of electricity. His hair caught fire more than once. He lost a toenail, burned eyebrows, and a wristwatch destroyed mid-strike. Co-workers eventually started walking away from him during storms out of pure fear. Doctors and park officials documented every single incident, which is why Guinness still lists his record as unbroken decades later. Even his wife was struck once while hanging laundry, with Roy standing right beside her. Number 26. Franz Reichelt. The actual 1912 newsreel survives to this day, and it remains one of the earliest films ever shot of a personal flight attempt. Franz was a Paris tailor obsessed with building a wearable parachute that could save the lives of pilots forced to jump from a burning aircraft. His early designs used about 6 square meters of cloth and weighed an impractical 70 kilograms, too heavy to ever work in a real fall. After finally getting permission from Paris police, he climbed to the first platform of the Eiffel Tower on February 4, 1912, intending to test the suit on a dummy. Instead, he strapped it on himself. Cameras captured him hesitating on the railing for several long seconds before stepping off. This grainy footage remains one of the only recordings of a fatal human experiment caught on film in real time. Number 25. Ram Bahadur Bombjon. Documentary footage shows a teenager sitting motionless beneath a tree in rural Nepal, drawing thousands of visitors a day just to watch him breathe. In 2005, at only 15 years old, Ram left his village and sat down to meditate, and he did not move from that spot for 10 months straight. A 9-member medical and community committee later watched him carefully for 48 hours and observed him take no food or water during that time. Soldiers eventually had to control the crowds, some reporting up to 10,000 visitors arriving daily. Followers came to believe he was a reincarnation of the Buddha himself. Investigators could never get close enough to run full medical tests, so the truth behind his endurance was never fully confirmed either way. Number 24. Akira Haraguchi. Video from that day shows this retired engineer sitting in a Tokyo hall, quietly reciting numbers hour after hour with no notes in front of him. In 2006, Akira needed more than 16 hours to recite pi to 100,000 decimal places, breaking his own previous record, stopping only for 5-minute breaks to eat rice balls. He built his own memory system, turning long strings of digits into Japanese syllables he could weave into stories, essentially turning raw numbers into a language only he could read. He says he was never a child prodigy and once got sent into the school hallway for failing basic multiplication. Every part of his attempt was filmed for verification, including his bathroom breaks. Number 23. Michel Lotito. Archive footage shows Monsieur Mangetou calmly chewing through a bicycle wheel like it was a sandwich. Michel started eating glass at age 9, and by adulthood, doctors confirmed he could safely consume 900 grams, about 2 pounds, of metal every single day. Over his career, he ate 18 bicycles, 15 supermarket trolleys, 7 television sets, and even a small airplane, cut into pieces with a saw and washed down with mineral oil. Gastroenterologists x-rayed his stomach and found a lining far thicker than normal. tough enough to survive nails and razor blades without tearing. His condition, called pica, is usually dangerous, yet Michel lived to 57 and died of natural causes, unrelated to his diet. Number 22. Dean Karnazes. Watch him run, and you will notice something strange. He barely sweats and never seems to slow down. In 2005, Dean ran 350 miles in 80 hours and 44 minutes without sleeping, eating, and drinking on the move the entire time. Scientists studying him found his body clears lactic acid from his muscles far faster than an average athlete's, which means he almost never hits the wall that stops the rest of us. He has run a marathon at the South Pole in temperatures of -40 degrees, and another through Death Valley in 120-degree heat. By his third sleepless night during that record run, he admitted he started hallucinating and running while half asleep, yet his legs never stopped moving. Number 21. Natasha Demkina. Discovery Channel filmed her claiming to see straight through skin and bone using only her eyes. At age 10, Natasha said a sudden vision let her see inside her own mother's body, and doctors in her hometown began quietly testing her on patients. In one striking case, she reported traces of several metal pins and screws left on someone's bones, details she could not have known without an X-ray. On British television, she left an impression on host Fern Britton by spotting her sore ankle on sight. Skeptical researchers later ran controlled tests in New York, and results were mixed, with Natasha succeeding on some targets and missing others entirely. She still charges for readings today. Number 20. Alexander Muromskiy. Guinness cameras caught this Russian strongman folding solid iron bars using nothing but the top of his head. Officials require each bar to measure a strict minimum thickness before an attempt even counts, so there is no trick involved, only raw force applied directly to the skull. Alexander holds the record for the most iron bars bent in 1 minute, at 26, meaning he snapped one roughly every 2 seconds without slowing down. He has also rolled 3 aluminum frying pans into a tight cylinder using only his bare hands. Doctors who examine strongmen like him point to decades of progressive bone density training, essentially teaching the skull and grip to behave like reinforced steel. Number 19. Gary Turner. Guinness filmed him pulling the skin on his own neck up over his chin like a rubber mask, and the room goes silent every single time. Gary has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a condition that leaves his collagen fibers loose and disorganized instead of tightly woven, which means his skin stretches instead of holding its shape. In 1998, he officially stretched the skin on his stomach to a distended length of 15.8 centimeters, about 6 inches, a record he has now held for over 2 decades. He insists none of it hurts, though doctors note he scars poorly and bruises with barely any pressure at all. He has since added records for clothes, pegs clipped to his own face. Number 18. Sifu Yan Lei. Watch the demonstration, and you will see students strike this Shaolin master's stomach and ribs with full-force bars and clubs, and he barely reacts. Yan Lei is a 34th-generation grandmaster trained in iron body conditioning, a practice built on decades of controlled strikes, breathing control, and herbal treatments that toughen muscle and bone far beyond normal limits. The Shaolin tradition breaks this training into 36 internal techniques and 36 external techniques, 72 total styles, and mastering even one takes years of daily practice. He teaches that pain is simply information the mind can be trained to reinterpret rather than fear. Monks like him have absorbed blows that would break an untrained ribcage without a single visible mark. Number 17. Stig Severinsen. Cameras rolled as this Danish freediver sank beneath the surface and simply did not come up. Not for 1 minute, not for 10. In 2012, Stig held his breath underwater for a lung-burning 22 minutes, setting an official Guinness World Record in a pool chilled to near freezing. Before the attempt, he breathed pure oxygen to load his blood, then used a technique he calls state of Zen to drop his resting heart rate to well below 30 beats per minute while fully submerged. He has also swum under Arctic ice and inside a tank full of live sharks on a single breath. Most people start to panic after 90 seconds without air. Number 16. Thai Ngoc. A viral video shows this Vietnamese farmer wide awake at 4 in the morning, decades after he claims his last real night of sleep. Thai says a fever in 1962 took his ability to sleep permanently, and his family confirms they have genuinely never once seen him rest. Vietnamese doctors tested him on multiple occasions to check whether he was faking his sleeplessness, and confirmed he does stay awake at all hours, yet he shows none of the confusion or health collapse that severe sleep deprivation usually causes. He spends his nights farming and brewing rice wine, while the rest of his village sleeps. Sleep researchers admit his case does not match any documented medical condition they currently understand. Number 15. Tony Cicoria. Watch him perform his own composition, and remember this surgeon had never seriously played piano before the day lightning hit him. In 1994, Tony was struck at a public phone booth. His heart briefly stopped, and a stranger who happened to be a nurse resuscitated him on the spot. Weeks later, he was overtaken by an obsession with classical music he had never felt before. He released his debut album, Notes from an Accidental Pianist and Composer, in 2008, 14 years after the lightning strike. Neurologists who studied his case call it acquired musical savant syndrome, a rare rewiring triggered by trauma to the brain. He still practices medicine and performs concerts on the same weekends. Number 14. Herbert Nitsch. Footage of his descent shows a single man sinking on a weighted sled into complete darkness, holding one breath the entire way down. Herbert is a former airline pilot who stumbled into freediving almost by accident and went on to hold 33 world records. In 2012, off Santorini, Greece, he descended to 830 feet and set a world record that still stands today, a depth where sunlight barely reaches. He has also trained his lungs to hold his breath for more than 9 straight minutes on land. That record dive nearly killed him, leaving him with decompression injuries that took years to recover from. He calls himself the deepest man on Earth, a title earned by pushing past the exact point where the human body starts to fail. Number 13. Scott Flansburg. Guinness cameras captured this man solving math problems faster than the judges could write them down. Known as the human calculator, Scott discovered his gift in 3rd grade when he solved a problem faster than his own teacher could at the chalkboard. His official Guinness World Record involved correctly adding a randomly selected 2-digit number, 38, to itself 36 times in 15 seconds, all done silently in his head with no paper and no calculator. He says he does not see numbers the way most people do, treating the entire number system as built around 9 instead of 10. He has since taught his method to children across the world and hosted his own Mental Math World Championship. Number 12. Alex Honnold. Watch the footage and your palms will sweat even though you are sitting safely on a couch. In 2017, Alex climbed the 3,000-foot granite face of El Capitan in Yosemite without a single rope, harness, or safety net, a route that takes trained climbers 4 days to complete with full gear. Neuroscientists later put him inside a brain scanner and found no damage to his amygdala, the part of the brain most associated with threat response and fear, or any other brain region tied to a fear response. One wrong move on that wall meant certain death, yet his brain simply did not register the danger the way an ordinary brain would. He credits years of obsessive preparation, not fearlessness, for the climb. Number 11. Jill Bolte Taylor. Her TED Talk remains one of the most watched in the platform's history, and it is entirely about her own brain failing in real time. Jill was a Harvard-trained brain scientist in 1996 when a blood vessel exploded in the left side of her own skull. Within the course of 4 hours, she could not walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of her life. Instead of panicking, the researcher inside her stayed curious, and she later described the stroke as strangely peaceful once her left brain's constant chatter went silent. It took her 8 years to fully rebuild her ability to think and speak. She now teaches others how to access calm on command, using techniques drawn directly from what she experienced while half her brain was offline. Number 10. Masutatsu Oyama. Footage shows this karate founder walking up to a bull and dropping it with one strike of his bare hand. In the 1950s, Oyama tested his power against live cattle in Japan, facing 47 cows, 4 of which died instantly from one blow. He trained alone in the mountains for over a year, punching trees and waterfalls until his knuckles bled and his hands could break stone. He went on to found Kyokushin Karate, a full-contact style that strikes opponents directly, building a following of over 12 million students in 120 countries. His 100-man kumite required fighters to survive 100 consecutive matches in a single day. Number 9. Adam Rayner. Archival footage and photographs document the only person in recorded medical history officially classified as both a dwarf and a giant. At age 21, Adam stood under 4 feet tall and was rejected from the Austrian army for being too short. Then, a tumor on his pituitary gland triggered an explosive growth spurt, and by his 32nd birthday, his short stature had increased to just under 7 feet 2 inches tall. The growth happened so fast, his body could not keep up, leaving him weak and in constant pain for the rest of his life. By the time he died at 51, he measured 7 feet 8 inches. Number 8. David Blaine. Millions watched live as this magician sealed himself inside a massive block of ice in Times Square. David has spent 2 decades turning human endurance into television events. In 2000, he stood encased in ice for 63 hours, 42 minutes, and 15 seconds before being cut free with chainsaws. He has also been buried alive underground for 7 days, lived inside a glass box over the Thames on only water for 44 days, and held his breath underwater for over 17 minutes. Medical teams monitor his vital signs throughout every stunt, and the readings are real, not staged. Doctors say most of what he survives should cause organ failure within days. Number 7. Nick Vujicic. Footage of Nick surfing, swimming, and golfing looks ordinary until the camera reveals he was born with no arms and no legs. Nick has a small foot near his hip, which he uses to balance, kick, and pick up objects between his toes. He taught himself to type 43 words a minute on a keyboard, using nothing but that foot, along with brushing his teeth and shaving. As a child, he battled deep depression and attempted to end his life at age 10, before deciding to reframe his condition entirely. He now travels to more than 50 countries as a motivational speaker, addressing crowds about resilience without dwelling on what he cannot do. Number 6. Ben Underwood. Footage of Ben rollerblading and playing basketball looks normal, until you remember he had no eyes. Cancer took both of Ben's eyes when he was only 2 years old, yet by age 7 he had taught himself to click his tongue and read the echoes bouncing back, the same trick dolphins and bats use to navigate. Reporters who followed him on the street watched him tell the difference between a fire hydrant and a trash can using clicks alone, just from the way sound bounced off each shape. He rode bikes through his neighborhood, beat sighted friends at foosball, and never used a cane. Researchers later scanned his brain and found his visual cortex had rewired itself to process sound as sight. Number 5. Stephen Wiltshire. Watch him work, and you will see a pen moving faster than most people can think. Diagnosed with autism at age 3, Stephen did not speak his first word until he was 5. Yet his visual memory works like a camera that never runs out of film. After a 20-minute helicopter ride, he sketched New York City across a 19-foot canvas, getting the window count on individual buildings correct. After flying just once over Mexico City, he drew the entire skyline from memory on a 13-foot canvas without a single reference photo. He has recreated London, Tokyo, Rome, and Dubai this same way, each one matching real proportions down to the last window. Number 4. Daniel Kish. His TED Talk has been watched by millions, showing exactly how a blind man can ride a bike through traffic. Daniel lost both eyes to retinal cancer before his first birthday, yet he taught himself to click his tongue and read the echoes the way bats and dolphins do. He calls the technique flash sonar. Researchers confirmed he can recognize a building as far away as 1,000 feet, reading its shape entirely through sound. Brain scans later showed his visual cortex, the part of the brain built for sight, actually lit up when he processed his clicks. He now runs a nonprofit teaching other blind people the same skill, turning what doctors once called a disability into a genuine sixth sense. Number 3. Kevin Richardson. Watch him walk into a pride of full-grown lions and get tackled into a hug instead of an attack. Known as the Lion Whisperer, Kevin raised many of these lions himself at his South African sanctuary, building trust through years of calm, consistent body language rather than any kind of dominance training. His most famous clip, showing him rolling around with a pride of lions, has been viewed more than 25 million times. He has been scratched and bitten over the years, but keeps working with these predators to draw attention to a grim statistic. Africa's lion population now occupies less than 20% of its former range. Number 2. Aaron Ralston. His own recorded footage from inside that canyon is one of the most harrowing survival videos ever filmed. In 2003, an 800-pound boulder shifted and pinned Aaron's right arm against a canyon wall in a remote part of Utah, and nobody knew where he was. After 5 days without food or water, drinking his own urine to survive, he made a decision most people could never make. He realized his only chance of escape was to amputate his own arm, using a dull multi-tool knife to begin the grueling process. He had to break his own bones first, then cut through muscle and tendon by hand. Once free, he still had to rappel 65 feet down a rock face and hike 7 miles before anyone found him. Number 1. Anatoli Bugarski. Reconstructions of the incident show exactly what happened the day this Soviet physicist leaned into the path of an active particle accelerator. In 1978, a safety mechanism failed, and a high-energy proton beam shot directly through the back of Anatoli's skull and out through his nose at nearly the speed of light. He saw a flash brighter than 1,000 suns and felt no pain at all. Doctors calculated the exposed tissue absorbed a radiation dose of over 3,000 grays at once. roughly 600 times what is considered fatal, across the whole body. Physicians moved him to a Moscow clinic expecting him to die within days. He did not. Anatoli lost hearing in one ear and part of his face stayed partially paralyzed, but he went on to earn his doctorate and live for decades afterward. Which of these incredible people do you think has the most extraordinary ability? And what made their story stand out to you? Share your thoughts below, hit like, and subscribe for more fascinating content.